This message has been spoken to Parliament more than 75 years ago. If it was accessible to our minds at that time, then how do we still find ourselves pondering about almightiness of the corporate machine? If we look at the history as a chain of interrelated events, we might have a chance to get a clearer understanding of the current state of American capitalism and solve the issues associated with it. In 21st century, we raise the same concern and ask ourselves, how corporations got too much power? According to Ted Nace, the author of Gangs of America, the answers are deeply hidden in the roots of the American Constitution. So let's take a closer look. On the 14th Amendment, the Supreme Court has affirmed that corporations are persons. Corporations were assumed to be the legal equivalent of people entitled to equal protection under the law and were guaranteed the range of constitutional rights. Now let's think about it for a moment. You and a corporation, according to the Constitution of the United States, are exactly same things, with minor differences. Corporations don't age and they can exist in perpetuity. But the question is, how did it change the corporation? First of all, it becomes easier to create a corporation because it doesn't need a governmental charter to start the business. Secondly, there's an increase in the lifespan. The corporation can exist forever. And there is also change in shape. It can expand itself by acquiring. But the list goes beyond that. For instance, the granted personhood and juridical rights resulted in making soft money contributions legal in the United States. The law was offered in hope that the flow of soft money would be cut off, which was meant to reduce corporate influence over federal government. But opponents immediately sued in federal court to have it blocked on the grounds that it violated the free speech rights of corporation. The suits ended up in the Supreme Court, where the bill faced an uncertain fate due to the strong possibility that the court would find it a violation of corporate First Amendment rights. So, corporations grow bigger and become richer. There is a process of an expansion of the legal foundations of the corporate power. Corporations increasingly use their economic power to influence government and consider this as a normal part of the costs of doing business. Let's take a minute to talk about two powers. There is economic power and there's political power. Economic power belongs to all players in the free market and constitutes the core of capitalism. It is the power to create wealth through production, trade, and competition. It is the power of persuasion, the power to appeal to one's mind. Economic power, although influential, does not force someone into something. Therefore, when we walk into the store, we are not forced to get a specific type of yogurt or toilet paper or what have you. There's always an option. And in other words, if someone comes at your door and demands you to buy his or her product, you can say no and walk away with it. Political power, on the other hand, implies a certain degree of control over the actions. It should only be used to defend against those who initiate force. The government has an ability to exercise its power through imposed rules and regulations. Consider an example where you walk into the store wanting to get a yogurt. There are two types of yogurt available in the market for exact same price. However, by getting one of them, you'll be charged an extra fee. Consider an example where you have to get at least one yogurt per day, or else you'll be penalized. Although these are not the ideal examples, and the examples in the real world are more complicated, they're illustrative enough to show what political power is capable of. While it is not established on paper, the majority realizes that the corporations have behind-the-scenes power. In fact, the big corporations go hand in hand with the federal government, where the latter let the lobbying take place. On top of that, America does not enforce transparency laws when it comes to lobbying, which makes it difficult to trace down the source of sponsorship. So, as a result of merged powers, there is information manipulation, distortion of the information available to consumers, as well as an increasing threat of monopolized market, which leads to control over supply. So the question is, are there any solutions? One of them can be transparency laws or tighter regulations for governmental lobbying, as well as empowering of the consumer.